Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to another episode of Learn with Shavern. So, on today's episode, we're going to actually talk about like data breaches. Um, Now, for 2018, because y'all, we just concluded 2018. Happy January 2nd, 2019, folks. Now, 2017, if you guys are familiar with the data breach from back then, it was in regards to Equinox, the credit reporting agency, being hacked, right? And you have like millions of Americans. I believe it was something like 143 million Americans had their information breached through Equinox, right? So now these 143 million Americans have to go the rest of their lives with like some angst about their identity being stolen or something like that. For my melanated people out there especially, please go get you a LifeLock, identity protection, get you something, because at the end of the day, you might be saying to yourself like, oh, well, my credit's already bad, blah, 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 blah. But if you got children, remember, you also passing on that bad credit to your kids, right? Instead of giving them something to inherit, you're giving them debt to inherit instead of finances to put themselves ahead. You're putting them back. So we definitely want to be aware and cognizant of how these data breaches can impact us. So for 28, that was 2017, right? Now fast forward into 2018, from like April to June of 2018, there was as many as like 765 million data breaches. Matter of fact, one of the most serious ones came from that happened at the Marriott Hotel and their whole franchise, right? Because the article, and I'll share the link below for you guys if you are curious to get more information on it and about how these data breaches impact you. If you watched yesterday's episode, we did talk about the drones being used in New York City, right? And about how technology can be abused if it's not used correctly, if it's not used for the power of good, right? It can be abused and misused. So the Marriott is saying that as many as 500 people who have reservations at like the Sherwood properties, this is including like the Sheraton hotels, the Westin and Limas, these people's info has been hacked. From going to a telly, right? From going to a hotel, making a nice reservation. Imagine you going with your family somewhere. And I personally like the Marriott. Honestly, like when I travel, I actually like their branch of hotels. I like their service and so forth. But anyhow, imagine you make a reservation at the Marriott. Are you trying to have a good time with your family, or maybe spend a dolo vacation or something like that? And then 6 months later, you find out that all your information is hacked. Credit cards, social security, all of that stuff. How would that make you feel? Right? Remember I was saying yesterday, like, who authorized these things? Why is it so easy for people to have data breaches, yet we're constantly being monitored? That doesn't make sense to me. Or, I don't know, let me know what you guys think about that. Like, am I tripping about how I'm looking at this? Is it weird, the fact that data can be breached this easily, but we have all of this technology in place to monitor and be preventative? That's kind of what I was insinuating yesterday. Like, we have all of this technology helping us, right? Assisting us, protecting us, quote unquote. But then how do these type of things happen if we have all this technology helping us? I understand nothing's perfect, because us as humans are not perfect, but then why rely on another imperfect system? I don't know. Maybe I'm just tripping on how I'm viewing this, but I am curious to know what you guys think about that. Because I'm talking 143 million Americans to have a lifelong concern about your identity being stolen. Shoot, I don't even know if I'm one of those Americans when my identity was stolen, right? All y'all would inherit is plenty of student loan debt, though, by the way. But the saddest thing is that the article goes on to say that the reservations at like the Marriott, the Sheraton, and so forth that were being breached, they don't really even know how long that stuff has been going on, because they've traced it as far back as like 4 years ago. We in 2019 now, so y'all talking about like back in 2015, people's information started to be stolen, and y'all just now getting hit to it? You mean out of all those people, all those reservations, ain't nobody caught in their credit card or caught in they what you call those? Their credit report, right? Ain't nobody caught that somebody else was using their stuff? I mean, most of us, especially as young people, like, y'all should really be wise. And for those of you that are parents, if you have teenagers, I would absolutely start encouraging to introduce those concepts of what credit is, how it should be used, what is it good for, right, to your children. I mean, my son is 6 years old, and I even teach him this stuff. Like, I tell him about credit. I tell him about money, right? I have these conversations with him because the more knowledge he got about, or the more knowledge he has about money, the more knowledge he'll be able to use in the future to make it. That's my thought process on it anyway. So yeah, back to what I was saying about the data breaches, the cyber attacks, and please don't misconstrue that some of these cyber attacks is just from foreigners, right? Because I know a lot of the time, sometimes the media can be a little bit misleading, and what happens is they'll try to paint this picture like America is constantly being attacked by foreigners. I feel like 8 out of 10 times Americans just be attacked by other Americans. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I definitely encourage y'all, LifeLock, or I think there's a couple other identity protection things. I even myself need to get hip to it because I'm reading this article today and it had me, all these question marks start going off in my head, and I'm like, dang, like maybe I need to look into this a little bit more. I mean, I monitor my credit, and I look at my credit report and stuff like that every I would say every like few months, right? Not too much, like not a hard pull. Like you have the monitoring things. Credit Karma is a cool app. It's not very factual in terms of real-time data. It is good for the data that is on there, right? It lets you know all of your collections accounts, debt accounts, so forth, any credit cards, whatever you don't have in good standing. Credit Karma is good for that. I am no credit expert, right? I have a decent credit score. I am no credit expert. However, it's just some basic common sense stuff that you can use to build credit. Basic, very basic. Get a credit card. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm not getting a credit card, blah, blah, blah. If you got a car, it's not going to hurt you to put a tank of gas in the car, because you know you're going to drive that anyway. You're going to spend that gas money anyway. You might as well use a credit card for something basic like that and then pay it off. That's literally how you build up good credit. For me, I took my credit score from like, and it was really bad because I just didn't know better. But I took my credit score from like 400 and something to a little bit over 600, right? And I did that in a year. How did you do that, Shavern? Common sense stuff, right? I stopped using my credit card so damn much. I started paying it off. I started just using my credit card specifically for whatever I already planned on using for cash. But instead of using that cash, I put on all of the things that, little stuff, groceries, gas, household items, right? Little things that I already know I have set aside money for. I put those things on a credit card. And then the way that I function, I get 2 paychecks every month, right? So by the time I get my 2 paychecks, whatever is accumulated on my credit card, now I'm able to pay that off one shot and keep my credit card before the next cycle is over at a 0 balance or as minimum as possible. Fundamental stuff, but you always want to protect your identity at the end of the day, because I know for me, I have a son and I don't plan on passing him down no debt if I can absolutely control it or help it. So I implore all of you to put some things in place to protect your identity, to make sure that you are not victimized by these cyber attacks from whoever they may be, right? Whether it's on home soil or from foreign land, whatever the case may be. You want to protect yourself from these type of cyber attacks. But drop a comment below. Let me know what you guys think in terms of these cyber attacks. Do you think that it's just fluff that the article is talking about? Or do you feel like there actually should be a legitimate concern about these cyber attacks that's going on over here in America? Thank you guys so much for liking, sharing, subscribing. Thank you guys for participating and dropping comments below. I am very appreciative for all of you guys, and I am super, super appreciative of those of you who have signed up for Patreon. Thank you. Patreon is just a second outlet for me to drop more media on. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram at LearnWithShavern. I wish you all a positive, powerful, productive day. Peace and blessings, family.